think we'd all agree that the world's currently in a bad state and that it seems to be getting worse more quickly. Just since the start of this year, 2026, there's been a deluge of developments that are pretty hard to take. Donald Trump features in a lot of them. His invasion of Venezuela and takeover of its government, cutting off oil to Cuba, the slaughter of thousands of people protesting against the regime in Iran, and then Trump using that as a pretext to send in warships and threaten to attack. Of course, the ongoing appalling situation in Palestine, where there's supposed to be a ceasefire, which is a total fake. After 2 years of devastation, it's continuing. Food is blockaded, people are freezing in tents, and not content with that, Israel is stepping up its attacks on the West Bank. Its leaders talking about burying the idea of a Palestinian state altogether. And of course, we've got Trump's farcical board of peace to try and displace the UN and give Trump control over more world affairs. Around the world, we've got fascist and other racist movements on the rise. We're seeing that here in Australia, of course. Thousands marching with the racists last year. One Nation starting to outpace the coalition in opinion polls. Now, the racists are taking advantage of real hardship that ordinary people are feeling. Unaffordable housing, shortage of rental properties, wages that have fallen behind inflation, and work that's insecure and gives little rights or security. Now, of course, the racists are blaming the wrong people. They're blaming immigrants for these things rather than the rich who are profiting from speculating on housing, for example, and governments who refuse to build public housing. And of course, there's an ongoing climate crisis. Here in South Australia, we've seen that sharply with the algal bloom off our coast that's killed a lot of sea life, upset sea-based industries and tourism. In Victoria, we had bushfires and then unprecedented flooding earlier in the year. And I could go on. Now, in all this horror, though, we mustn't lose sight of the fight back. People are fighting back. There's the magnificent movement around the world for Palestine. We had our rallies against the Herzog visit around Australia recently. In the Mediterranean, dock workers have taken strike action to block arms going to Israel. We, of course, had the response to Premier Malinowskis and others trying to ban Palestinian-Australian Dr. Randa Abdel Fattah from Writers' Week, and the amazing solidarity that was shown there by writers and others to respond to that and make sure she could speak while just bringing down the existing for people who'd wanted to ban her. The Iranian people, of course, are continuing the fight against the theocratic dictatorship there. Last year we had Zoran Madani's victory in New York as mayor. And of course, this year we've had the fight back in freezing cold Minneapolis in the US against Trump's ice goons who are terrorising the population. So they're building mutual support, they're striking, and they've got Trump to back down from the worst of those attacks. Now, Solidarity is a revolutionary socialist organisation. We see that all of these horrors ultimately come down to the capitalist system that dominates the world. Capitalism starts off as the market pursuit of profit before all else, but it's developed into this intense competition that's taken the whole globe, conflicts between armed nation states, what we call imperialism, leading to conflicts and wars and threatening the whole world if nuclear weapons are used. We say ultimately the people who keep the system running are the people who need to change it, the working class. And we say the system's created its own grave diggers. So we have a vision of workers striking, stopping the system running as it is, organising to keep society running for the things that we do need, and ultimately creating a revolution to replace the boss's state with organisations that workers have built up through those struggles, what we call socialism from below. But we're realistic. We recognise that we're a long way from that now. Revolutionaries are a tiny minority. Most workers are preoccupied with just getting by, raising their families, commuting or doing their jobs. Some workers are totally resigned to the system. They're cynical, looking to get ahead as individuals, maybe by starting a business or whatever. But millions still have some inkling of their position in society. They might express that by voting Labor in the sense that they're against the Liberals as the party of the rich. Or they join trade unions to protect themselves at work. They realise bosses don't have their interests at heart. Often they're willing still to support union action, even strikes, to try and get a better deal within the system. Now, as socialists, we don't dismiss these struggles to make things better or to defend what we have in the here and now. On the contrary, these struggles are precious. They can move workers a step closer to finding the bigger things, eventually overthrowing capitalism itself. We argue the best ways to win these struggles is to start using the methods that can succeed longer term, collective action, strikes and so on. We want these struggles to happen, but too often workers' existing leaders don't initiate them. They're careful of rocking the boat, they worry about hostile media, they've got quite comfortable jobs as politicians or union officials, and they don't want to jeopardise those. Or if they do start a struggle, they might call it off short and settle for far less than could have been won. Now, a lot of people on the far left, the response to this is to attack or denounce the current leaders of the working class. They often focus on the Labor Party or particular union leaders as the problem. Now, it's rare for far left leaders to have the credibility to lead action themselves. We just don't see that in Australia today. So in the absence of any action, rank and file workers can become demoralised and might reach conclusions like leaving the union or voting for right-wing parties. And this is where the strategy that guides a lot of Solidarity's work, the United Front, comes in. The United Front's a heritage of the height of the socialist movement in the early 20th century, when workers briefly seized state power in Russia. The basic idea is simple. Unite revolutionary and non-revolutionary workers in common action for a common cause, using the tactics that will mobilise workers, but that you don't have to be revolutionary to be open to, things like marching, striking, putting on bans. The United Front, that goes beyond the simple idea of unity. It's also about reaching out to reformist leaders, Labor leaders, union leaders, to reach their membership. So we know we can't reach them directly, but if we can get some of their leaders to back action, people might be more willing to take action. Part of the United Front idea too is also that as revolutionaries we maintain our own separate organisation. We don't dissolve into a bigger organisation, but we still keep up the fight to convince workers of the need for revolution, based on that new experience of fighting and winning together. Now, the United Front was a key to the temporary victory in Russia, which was based on workers' councils or Soviets, which were themselves a form of United Front, where revolutionaries and more Labor types worked together while they debated the way forward. During the course of that revolution, there was a threatened right-wing coup by General Kornilov, and United Front tactics were essential to unite the revolutionaries with non-revolutionaries to beat that coup. In the decades since then, or following the revolution, the United Front was articulated most clearly by Leon Trotsky, who'd been a key leader of the revolution in Russia. In Germany, in particular, along with another revolutionary, Clara Zetkin, he made the argument that communists and the more Labour-type party needed to unite to take action to defeat the rise of the Nazis in Germany. Now, tragically, of course, back then, too much like today, the main revolutionary groups denounced Labour as social fascists and refused to unite with them to fight the Nazis. Hitler was able to come to power against this divided Labour movement and smashed both parties, killing their activists or sending them to concentration camps. All right, so what does that say for the situation today? We still face growing far-right movements, of course, but yeah, there is a difference. Labor doesn't have the same grip on the working class that it might have in the past. Unionists have become a minority of the workforce. So the official left has declined quite a lot. But the far left has declined even more. We're much behind the large communist party that existed in pre-Nazi Germany. The far left here counts its numbers in mere hundreds at best. So we're not in a position to put demands on, say, Sally McManus, the leader of the peak union body, or Labor leaders like Peter Malinauskas or Anthony Albanese to lead struggles for decent housing or to stop One Nation. But we can, at a lower level, find figures in the Labor movement who are to our right politically but still have significant influence and that can be persuaded to get on board with joint action. An everyday example is how we work in our unions. We often have significant differences with union leaders. We want to see a militant response to issues. They're more likely to look for compromise. But we realise it's destructive just to denounce the leaders. Instead, what we do is we encourage members to join their union. We try in a union to organise the members to meet or collect petitions, calling on the leaders to act. And when they do take an initiative, like call a meeting or put up a proposal for action, we get behind it. We become its biggest champions, push for it to be as successful as possible. And at the same time, we also urge the workers to organise independently of the leaders, in what we call rank and file groups, to keep the pressure on. To give another example, we're active in South Australia, the two current members of Solidarity here, in a group called Unionists for Palestine, South Australia. This is a group of rank and file union members who want to see unions here do more to support Palestine. Last year, this group put together an open letter to SA Unions, the peak union body here, and we collected over 300 signatures, mainly from union members. And the result of that letter was that SA Unions put out a public statement of support for Palestine that they hadn't done before, and we're now holding meetings of that group in the SA Unions office, making it just seem a bit more part of the union movement, a bit more credible. Now, obviously, we'd like to see a lot more action than that. We'll continue to put demands on the union leaders, but the point is we're working in constructive tension with them rather than simply opposing them or falling in behind them. And to give a final example from Naarm or Melbourne, where Solidarity has a larger branch, the response from most of the left to the large racist marches has been to gather the members of the far left to confront the racists. They've put an emphasis on confrontation first, while failing to make a serious effort to draw out larger numbers who may not be as left-wing as us. So the Solidarity branch in Naarm has started to make a serious effort to reach out to other groups with an interest in beating the racists. A few of our members are already working with other people in the Refugee Action Collective in Victoria, and they persuaded that group to launch a call for a rally that would put an emphasis on involving a wide range of groups beyond the revolutionary left. And after a lot of work, they got 60 different organisations to endorse that rally. I've got a printout here, I'll show you. That lists a number of unions. They had speakers from the Peak Trades Hall body. They had Green Senator Marine Faruqi, an Aboriginal elder from Camp Sovereignty, a representative of Hindus for Human Rights, and of Labor Friends of Palestine, the group within the Labor Party that agitates for pro-Palestine policies. So the key thing about this is it's not just a collection of far-left socialist and anarchist groups. It's reaching out into the community to broader groups to make the movement stronger. Now, the rally that they organised had 400 to 500 at it. Good start, but it does need to be bigger. In particular, I think we need to convince a lot of groups that being involved means not just sending a speaker or a representative, but that there's a need to mobilise their members more broadly and increase the numbers. But it does show there's potential to build an anti-racist movement beyond the revolutionary left. So, to sum up, we think it's important to work for socialism, to prevent a real alternative to the misery chaos and destruction capitalism is wreaking on the world and its people and environment. But the best way to make that alternative realistic is to work constructively alongside other people wherever they are fighting to defend themselves or to change things for the better. And to bring the heritage of socialist ideas and history to contribute to those movements and help make them stronger and hopefully win more people to the goal of bigger change. I want to finish up with a quote from the Solidarity website about why we chose that name. The name Solidarity invokes one of the basic values of working class struggle, standing together in the fight for our rights. But it also stands for the wider solidarity we want to see, uniting those fighting for change around different issues into a united fight back against the capitalist system and the ruthless strive for profits that dominates our world. Now, the examples I've given might seem small, and that's because we're a small organisation. If you want to see bigger, we want people to join us and make solidarity bigger so we can do more. Thanks.